Okay, welcome back to another, maybe final stream of Ever 17 again. Let's see how this goes. Sorry. Well, we are doing Koko's run, and we're playing both as Takeshi and Hokuto again. Massive spoilers again. Should have said that at the top. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Takeshi's timeline. We start with Koko trying to explain to us how she can borrow perspectives from the fourth dimension. She's talking about being able to see perspective when you are plucked out and into the ether of whatever is keeping you down. Anyway, back in Hokuto's timeline, Koko, who was also talking to us, says that part of us is someone else, maybe a Blick-Winkle-san, and at that point the cosmic whale room imploded and I started bleeding, and then we became a perspective, just like Koko was trying to explain. So we got to watch from this perspective Koko getting sick. Takeshi now has black hair. We went into the IBF. Everyone has Tiefblau. This is all just like from a previous playthrough that we saw through Takeshi's timelines. So they tried to fix it with a serum made out of Tsugumi's blood, which is definitely a Hail Mary if you think about it. Everybody gets saved by main control except for Tsugumi and Takeshi. PP apparently is a machine, and Takeshi saves Tsugumi and a disc of Sora in a spare submarine, but Takeshi drowned on the way up. So, it's a lot of things that have happened that we have seen on previous playthroughs before, but now Hokuto is being able to see these all at once. So, back in Hokuto's timeline, we all run up the stairs from the bottom of the Lemu, and we are escaping because the place is imploding finally, but we reach the top of the floating island and everyone's okay. We have a beat to consider, all of the mysteries that we tried to uncover, but we realize that they might have all gone down with the ship, except for Kaburaki, who is, as you may remember, the new brunette kid. Anyway, so we try to go to yell at Kaburaki, who might be behind all of this, until someone taps us on the back, which turns out to be a real live Sora! She exists, she's real, she's in the corporeal form now. That's weird. Oh, my cat just jumped into a box. Anyway, then we... what is it? We get led by Sora to discover two U's facing each other, which is what you can see on this screen right now. Anyway, let's get into it. Maybe this will be the final. We'll see. Oh my god. Alright, hold on. Actually, my cat is going crazy in a box. My cat loves boxes. Anyway, so Yu was standing right in the center of the open space. She was standing with her back to me. And someone else, a woman who looked just like her. They were facing each other and standing still. I braced against the rising tide of emotion within me and went to stand over by them. I flashed a look back. Sora was standing at the entrance to the forest and didn't appear to be coming closer. In the center of that area were you, the lady, and me. The other lady. Of course, I knew her name. Tanaka Yubise Harukana. She had been infected with the Cure virus, and although she seemed young, she didn't look quite 17. It was probably since her cells had divided for 5 years, which had caused her to age slightly. In other words, her body was that of a 23-year-old, but she's actually 35. I looked over at Yu, which is Yubise Akikana, standing next to me. She had her hand curled up into a fist and was glaring at her mother. She was so furious that she was shaking. I realized that the person who had been manipulating everything from behind the scenes had been the person standing in front of me, Yubise Harukana, aka Yu's mother. She had been there safe and sound on the island, relaxing, looking down at our plight and probably laughing the whole time. I glared over along with you. She appeared indifferent to our stares, and she said nonchalantly, I'm just going to call them Haru and Aki, just to make it easier on my body. So Haru says, do you have any questions? I laughed without thinking. What the hell kind of thing was that to say? Why would you do something like this? Haru says, in order to call forth Blickwinkle. What the hell is Blickwinkle? You already know that, don't you? Blickwinkle is you. Me? I'm Blickwinkle? Yes. I'm not talking to Hokuto. I'm talking to the perspective on the other side of Hokuto. Perspective? Yes. The third eye, Blickwinkle. The you on the other side of Hokuto. That's right, the part of you that's looking at me right now. It is you who I am talking about. Dun dun dun. From the beginning, you've been the kid. When you overlapped with Hokuto, he lost his memory and became you. So it makes sense that he had amnesia. You never lived in this world before. You have no history here, no memories of this place. On May 1st, 2034, at 3:17 p.m., you uttered your first words in this world, kid. You aren't from this world. You're looking down at this world from one dimension higher than this. That's why you can see the future and the past. Well, that's not all. You can probably also see other time continua. The reason the kid could see the future is that you know all there is to know about this world. It only makes sense that you didn't respond to the name Hokuto. I mean, your real name isn't Hokuto, right? You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to lie to yourself. Won't you show me your true self? Answer me truthfully. You aren't really a kid named Hokuto, are you? Who am I? Who are you? I am Hokuto. Who are you? Who am I? You are Hokuto. I'm not Hokuto. I am not Hokuto. I am me. I am me. Yes, I remember. I am me. I have watched your world for so long, watching. But I am but a perspective, an eye that transcends dimensional boundaries. I am the third eye. I am Blickwinkle. I'm Blickwinkle. So now I am Blickwinkle. Interesting. I remember now. I am not from your world, am I? I am not Hokuto, am I? It sure has been a long time. A long time? No, don't worry about it. Thank you for showing yourself. Why? Please tell me why. Why did you have to do this? I already told you. In order to, well, I suppose you could call it a summoning. In order to reach me, did you really have to do something so reckless and dangerous? Yes. Just as I explained earlier, you have been looking down on our world from your dimension, right? Let's say there was a conscious being from the second dimension. What do you think the second dimensional being would have to do in order to make contact with the third dimension? For instance, on an XY plane, there are some two-dimensional beings, points A, B, and C. And in XYZ space, you have a three-dimensional being on point D. Points A, B, and C can only move on an XY axis. So how can they draw a point D to them? You have point C move on the same line as points A and B. And when that happens, points A and B from C form a line and create a common plane with point D, meaning point D becomes part of the same plane as points A, B, and C. And when that happens, point D has the illusion that it is in the same world as A and B and C for the first time. And that's what we did. In creating a world where you couldn't tell if it was 2034 or 2017, point D, in other words, we were able to create the illusion that the fourth dimensional being, the perspective Blinkwinkle, was in our same reality. And you showed yourself to us, descending into space right in front of us. We were all waiting for you, all of us. We'd been waiting for you for so long. Why? Why were you waiting for me? What was the reason you could have to call for me? We just were following your directions. Uh-oh. Huh? You called yourself. What do you mean? You needed us and we needed you. Why? In order to save Koko and Kuranari, we needed to borrow your powers. To save Koko and Takeshi? We are powerless to fight the flow of time. There's nothing we can do about the past. But you can. The reason being that someone like you from the fourth dimension can travel freely through time. I saw it then, and I saw everything. My consciousness had detached from Hokuto and gone back to the world of 2017. Hokuto's feelings and thoughts hadn't reached me, but our perspectives have overlapped. An observer with no feelings. All I could do was witness events as they passed. The submarine that Tsugumi was on had continued floating up and had already made it to the surface. It was a small white vessel rocking in the waves. Shut inside the small submarine, Tsugumi's shoulders drooped as she sat in the cockpit in shock. Having lost everything, she sat there soullessly, looking at it as empty as a glass ornament. And just then, the lights came back on in Pee-Pee's eyes, who, moments before, had been motionless at Tsugumi's feet. He got up quickly. She seemed to be unable to comprehend what was happening. Pee-Pee shook off his body, flashed a look up to Tsugumi's face, and walked over to stand in front of the glass hatch. Scratch, scratch. Pee-Pee began pawing at the hatch. What's wrong? Tsugumi mumbled weakly. Woof, woof, wow, wow, wow. Pee-Pee stood facing the hatch and barked. You want to go outside? Woof! Tsugumi's gaze wandered as if she was thinking something over. Pee-Pee continued barking the whole time. The submarine rocked gently in the waves. Tsugumi put both of her hands on the wall and looked outside the window. Okay. Saying that, Tsugumi opened not the glass hatch, but the heavy one on top of the submarine. Pure white light flashed into the interior of the ship like a sharp edge of a blade. Tsugumi squinted against the brightness. She held one hand to fend off the light and used the other to push the hatch with all of her might. She picked up Pee-Pee and brought him outside of the boat. Pee-Pee kicked hard against the hull to fly into the air and splashed into the ocean with a beautiful arc. One mechanical dog swimming in the ocean. Down, down, down he went. He didn't stop at 17 meters, or 34 meters, or 51 meters, 68 meters, 85 meters, 102 meters, 119 meters. The hard rock surface deep in the blue darkness. A man's body lay on the ocean bed. Pee-Pee bit onto his clothing and pulled. He was trying to bring him somewhere? Of course the man didn't move at all. Pee-Pee bit on some exposed flesh. The man didn't respond. His life had expired. All that remained there was a cold corpse and nothing more. Something had fallen to his side. A disc. A terabyte disc. Pee-Pee picked it up in his mouth and left the body behind. He started swimming into the ocean. Going sideways, he cut across the water. At the bottom of the dark sea, there was only a cold surface of the rock and dark black seawater. Occasionally, delicate streams of light would pass by. Perhaps Pee-Pee had found something? Without hesitation, Pee-Pee swam straight towards the white building. Splash! A face of a single dog broke the surface of the pool. He stuck out his front legs onto the edge and climbed onto the floor. He shook himself off. Small droplets of water flew off in all directions, forming a mist. The terabyte disc was still in his mouth. Pee-Pee ran. He lost his footing on the wet floor, slipped and fell. Oh, how adorable. And standing up again, he readied himself and dashed off at a full gallop. His pliant body shot like a coiled spring. Pee-Pee ran down the passages, braking to the right, and turning to the left, he was aiming for something. Somebody's saying, Pee-Pee? Pee-Pee. Only her voice could be heard. Woof! Pee-Pee barked loudly. The disc fell out of his mouth to spin across the floor with a rattle. Pee-Pee quickly braked with all 4 legs, turned around to get the disc, and dashed across the floor again. Pee-Pee. Take-pyeon. Uh-oh. It seems somebody was left behind. Okay. When he turned the corner, her figure jumped out at him. I do not know what this special illustration is, but boy, isn't it? It's creepy looking. It's got some textures. Anyway, she was lying down in the middle of the passage. Pee-Pee ran over to her side. He set down the disc on the floor and bit at her clothes, starting to pull on her. He tried desperately to pull her along, but just as he could not budge the man before, it was too much for his small frame to move her. Woof, woof, woof. Pee-Pee? She opened her eyes weakly. Oh, where did you go? I was so worried about you. Pee-Pee licked her face. Where is everyone? Oh, I don't understand when you whine. Pee-Pee pulled on her clothes and scratched her shoulder, grunting with his effort. Woof, 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 woof. Perhaps he realized that there was nothing that he could do, but Pee-Pee barked frantically. Hey, Pee-Pee? Let's go home? Daddy and Mommy are waiting for us, so let's go. Go home. Okay, Pee-Pee? She closed her eyes quietly. Woof, 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 woof. No matter how much he barked at her, she wouldn't open her eyes. Pee-Pee started walking around the area. He finally stopped, picked up the disc that he had left on the floor, and started running again. Going back the way he came, he made it back to the pool, and without hesitating, he threw himself into the water. He started swimming in the ocean, rising up and up. He didn't stop. 102 meters, 85 meters, 68 meters, 51 meters, 34 meters, 17 meters, 0 meters. Pee-Pee's face broke the surface. The blue expanse of the sky loomed above him. The sun had changed the water to a silvery color. Yubise Harukana was there to pick Pee-Pee up. She took the terabyte disc from his mouth and looked at the digital recording of the IBF that Pee-Pee had taken with his eyes. That was the first time that she realized the truth. That left behind at the bottom of the ocean in the research facility was a single girl. Oh, there she is! Special illustration was creepy after all. It is just Koko. Woo! She's all alone at the bottom of the ocean. That girl was Koko. It was Yagami Koko, Yubise Harukana said. And then now we're back to Haru, and she says, Kaburaki and I have been infected by the Tiefblau virus and were rescued by the salvage vessel. But Koko wasn't aboard the submarine with us. I was unconscious then, so I hadn't noticed. But I realized it afterwards. Koko had been left behind in the IBF. I can't believe it. This is Incel Null Control. Please respond. This is the examination room. Oh, sorry, Takeshi's like, this is the examination room here in the IBF-3. Over. Thank goodness, that's where you were. A little while ago, we got a message from the dispatch that they couldn't find you. You had us worried there. I'm sorry, I was out for a bit. We were able to rescue the other 3 people in the examination room, so they're being cared for in the salvage vessel. Is everyone okay? We can't say for sure. Their conditions are serious. We're going to fight against time. The submersible is going to the surface soon, and we'll transfer them to a floating medical center. Okay, you take care of them. Alright, so now back to the present day. The control center said they had rescued the other 3 people in the examination room. So why those 3 people were me, Kaburaki, and one more, my father, Tanaka Yuichi. Why did the rescue team leave Koko there? I heard from them afterwards, but they said that they couldn't find her. Oh, I remember. By the time the rescue squad got there, Koko wasn't in the examination room. I don't know why, but for some reason Koko had gotten out of her capsule pod. So the only people left there were you, Kaburaki, Yoichi-san, and who was already dead. Yeah. You and Kaburaki's condition was extremely serious. So they put the highest priority on saving the lives of those two, and the rescue squad left. Meaning they overlooked Koko. No, they abandoned her. Yu pinched her eyes shut, her face distorted in sadness. Well, what do you want me to do? By the time these words left my mouth, I had already returned to 2017. To that vast blue world. On the bottom of the ocean lay the cruelly broken body of a man. It didn't move. What do you want me to do? I'm not from this world. The only thing that I can do is look. Just look on. You wanted to show me this dead body? It makes me sad. Terribly sad. He had thrown his life away to protect the woman he loved. It was heartbreaking. His body had lost all warmth. I kept staring, and just then... Dad! 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 My awareness split, broke, fractured as a powerful force of will woke up inside of me. I was infused with an overwhelming passion. Hokuto's indomitable belief, willpower, emotions, and psyche were like a raging inferno that engulfed me. That ferocious willpower raged within me and superseded my existence. It exploded in a shower of white sparks of light and roared like thunder. Overwhelmed by the raw vigor, I withdrew. It was no place for me to be. Hokuto exploded with bottled-up emotions, threw his instinctive power free into darkness. Dad, don't you die on me! Please, don't die! I still haven't met you yet! Please don't leave me, Dad! Sarah and I are waiting for you. Mama's waiting for you. Please don't leave her sad. Help us. You promised. You said I'm not going to die no matter what, right? You swore you wouldn't even let one person die. Koko is still in the research facility. If you don't do something, she's going to die. Dad! Takeshi opened his eyes, and at the bottom of the seabed, under unbearable pressure, he regained consciousness. How many minutes had it been since his last breath? But he was undeniably alive, and he had revived. I'm not going to die. I promised her. I could hear the screams of his mind in my ears. Takeshi flipped himself over, kicked off the reef, and began to swim. He cut the water with his arms and kicked his legs, continuing to swim wildly through the water. The water pressure did not faze him, and in his body he felt no resistance. He moved forward in the darkness, as if he were skating on ice. Bubbles trailed in an arc behind him. He maintained an unthinkable speed, tearing apart only the wall of water in front of him. His only source of guidance was a faint light visible ahead. This is definitely a different ending to Weekend at Bernie's. Anyway. Splash! His momentum carried him flying out of the water. And he just breached the water like a dolphin. Very good. Okay, anyway. Putting his face above the pool, he started coughing hard, trying to expel all of the seawater in his lungs. He clung to the edge of the pool, sucking in deep breaths of air. He coughed hard as he was breathing in and vomited large amounts of water. Oh god, he repeated that many times. As the painful fits had finally died down, Takeshi lay exhausted like he was dead. Well, truth be told, he probably had been dead. Takeshi crawled across the floor. He flipped over on his back with a thud. He couldn't move. The sound of his heavy breathing echoed off the walls. Dad, hang in there, Hokuto called out. Takeshi laughed. I don't know who the heck you are, but don't call me Dad. Dad! I'm telling you, I don't have any kids. But I'm your son! Okay then, who's your mom? Tsugumi is. Yeah, it's no surprise you're laughing. You probably don't believe me, do you? Because I'm talking to you from 17 years in the future. 17 years. That'd make it 2034. By the way, where are you? I can't see you anywhere. I'm close to you. Takeshi peeled himself off the floor where he had been lying and rose slowly. He looked all around. Even if you look for me, I don't think you can see me. I'm only looking at you, Dad. What are you talking about? My body isn't in your time. And it isn't like I'm using a speaker to send my words to you. I'm connected to your mind, talking to you. Takeshi put his finger in his ear and wiggled it. Must be hallucinating this. I wonder if I'm... No! You don't have time for this! You don't have any time to waste! Oh yeah, you mentioned earlier about Koko in the research facility, right? That's right. Koko didn't get out of one of those submersibles. The man in the rescue squad who told you about the survivors, he was talking about you, Kabaraki, and the researcher. You've gotta be joking. You've gotta go back and check the research facility one more time. Koko's still in there. Takeshi hurried down the corridor. The research facility was almost entirely silent. The only sound on the echo was the echo of Takeshi's shoes against the floor. The corridor wound left and right. He searched around but didn't find any signs of anyone. I don't see anybody. That's impossible. I'm telling you, she's gotta be there somewhere. Takeshi tilted his head a bit quizzically. Well, I suppose I should thank you. If you hadn't woken me up saying something stupid like Dad, I probably would have drowned. Are you alright? Well, what do you think? Just think about everything that's happened to me in the last few hours, will you? It started with getting teeth blow, I got decompressed, pressurized, and pumped up with Segumi's antibodies. That's sexy. And finally ended with this getting sucked out to the bottom of the sea and practically drowning. Well, I guess I did kind of throw myself out there. Well, in spite of all that, you seem to be doing alright to me. Well, I suppose Segumi's antibodies must have kicked in. Or maybe the effects of the Cure virus had already started. No, there was no way his DNA could be rewritten so quickly. But that might have been another explanation for why Takeshi recovered so quickly from jumping into the water. I had no way of knowing. It didn't matter though. He looked a lot better after walking around for a while. He looked strong even. Takeshi walked down the passageway on steady legs. He came to an intersection. Checking quickly left and right, he set down his path to the left. It was right after that. Wait a sec. Did something just move right now? Without waiting for Hokuto's reply, Takeshi started running. We have a special illustration of Takeshi holding a Koko! Koko! Koko had fallen down in the corridor. Takeshi rushed over to Koko and lifted up her motionless body. Takepyeon? Koko spoke faintly. What are you doing here? Well, Pee-Pee wasn't, I couldn't find him, and so I went looking for him. It appeared that Koko had gotten out of her pod by herself before the rescue squad had arrived and gone looking for Pee-Pee. You are the most totally... Takeshi shook his head, dumbfounded. Koko looked innocently at the exasperated Takeshi and muttered, Hey, is everyone else still sleeping? That was all Koko could say before she passed out. The next instant, ba-boom! A loud explosion shook the walls of the IBF. The sound came from up above. The falling wreckage from Leimu had probably collided with the roof of the research facility. Paradise was still collapsing, it seemed. Takeshi quickly scooped up Koko's body and dashed across the floor. Okay, so this is how we've avoided seeing Takeshi's hair color on all of these special illustrations. It's just like his chin and that's it in a lot of these, or a reflection or whatever. Anyway, kicking up his feet, Takeshi screamed into the void. Hey, what am I supposed to do? Can't you escape by swimming through the pool? Hokuto answered. Idiot! It's 119 meters underwater down here. Koko and I won't be able to hold our breath that long. Besides, in order to reach the surface, we have to decompress slowly as we go up. It's 12.5 atmospheres down here, and the ocean's surface is almost 1 atmosphere. There's no way we can survive unless we get ourselves decompressed. Well, how about the elevator? It's been cut off. The elevator tubes were destroyed a long time ago. There's no way to go up. Well, let's go to the examination room, okay? Takeshi ran into the examination room. He hit the control panel and closed the door. Strangely, there was no sign of flooding inside of the IBF. There was no sound of running water, and the tremors had stopped for the time being. But there was still no time to relax. Koko's body was rapidly reaching its limit. Takeshi laid Koko down onto the bed. He ran towards the side of the desk at the corner of the room, grabbed something from the storage bins, and it was the antibodies for teeth blow taken from Segumi. Koko hadn't been inoculated with it yet. Without a word, Takeshi gave Koko the antibodies. Koko had long passed the stage of suffering and laid there looking limp. Come on, do the trick! Takeshi threw the empty syringe away and held onto Koko's hand as she lay there. A while had passed, but Koko's condition didn't seem to be improving. As a matter of fact, it seemed to be getting worse. Oh, come on, how come it isn't working? Takeshi banged on the wall. Koko was infected a few days earlier than you, Dad. So her disease has been progressing for that much longer than everyone else. Damn it. We can't just sit here and wait. Besides, we've got to find a way to escape. I need to think of something. Takeshi paced around the room with his head down. Occasionally, heavy noises echoed from the ceiling. Takeshi listened to the noises, and then Takeshi, looking as he just realized something, whispered to himself. I heard an announcement earlier, before Tsugumi and I escaped. The announcement said something in German, like, you're gonna be crushed in a few minutes. Wow, I guess that's what it said. But this place is still standing. Why is that? I don't know why either. But maybe... Maybe what? That announcement might have been about Leimu imploding. But think about it. This laboratory has been built so that the atmospheres inside and outside are equal. And since they're still balanced, it probably won't implode as easily. That must have been it. If you left the cap on an empty plastic bottle, even if you came back years later, the air would still be trapped inside, which meant that the laboratory should have been safe, unless extreme force was added from somewhere, such as a giant piece of partition from Leimu falling on it. Takeshi nodded upon hearing Hokuto's explanation. Although he didn't seem to be fully convinced, by accepting the explanation, he was probably trying to clear one of the many problems facing him at the moment. As time progressed, Koko's condition got worse and worse. Damn it, why is this all happening? Why? Takeshi kicked the wall. Well, Dad, you should have given her the antibody earlier. Huh? It's a little late for that now, don't you think? Besides, Koko was in a pod under pressure at the time. I couldn't just open the lid. But you could have given her a shot without opening the lid, because you said... It seems that this pod can do laser disinfecting as well as simple surgery in addition to oxygen treatment. And depending on how you use it, even cryogenic suspension. Since it has many other functions, it probably should be able to give her an injection. But you didn't say a word about being able to give shots without opening the lid, did she? And if she didn't mention it, it must not be possible. Besides, neither you nor I could have had any idea what this device can do. What's cryogenic suspension anyway? It's like hibernation, Hokuto answered as if anyone would know. Hibernation? You mean like bears do in the winter? Yeah. I'm pretty sure that cryogenic suspension means that you can artificially induce hibernation. It means human body temperature, it keeps the human body temperature low, around 6 to 7 degrees Celsius, and reduces your heartbeat and breathing to the absolute minimum. That way, it increases your metabolic efficiency and conserves as much energy as possible. I see. Let me take a sip. Alright. Hey, I wonder why they have it here. In the middle of saying that, Takeshi stopped suddenly. At the same time, Hokuto's thoughts stopped too. And then they screamed out at the same time. I got it! We'll put her in cryogenic suspension! I got it! We can put her in cryogenic suspension! If her body temperature is kept low, it'll slow down the rate of the virus infection too, right? Yeah! Alright, well, we need to do a little more time, and if we have time, I'm sure it'll work. We can slow down the virus even for a minute, or for a second. It'll be better than nothing. Alright then. Takeshi carried the frail Koko. I love this like Tweedledee, Tweedledum dialogue between the two of these idiots. Takeshi carried the frail Koko and set her into the pod, and then he started flipping through the manual at full speed, skimming it. It didn't seem too difficult to set it up. Takeshi, unlike his usual self, manipulated the computer terminal swiftly and smoothly. Then, all that was left to do was turn on the switch. And there she is, laying in the pod. Koko was asleep in the pod. Takeshi reached out his hand to the switch that would close the lid. A split second before he flipped the switch, Koko quietly opened her eyes.
Who is that?
What?
Who's standing behind you, Take-pyeon?
Behind me? Takeshi looked back. Hokuto was there. Can you see him, Koko?
Yeah, I do.
Koko, it's me, Hokuto.
Hokuto. Hokuto is your name. Can I call you Hokutan?
The Koko of that time didn't seem to know Hokuto yet. So who was the phantom girl that I had been seeing? Dun dun dun. Hokuto. Is that your name? Uh-huh. Really? Koko? I can't see him, but this guy Hokuto's helped us, you know.
Hokutan. Thank you. And the other person. You. Thank you.
Other person? There's someone else?
Yeah, there is. I can see him behind Hokutan.
Silence filled the room. The room temperature suddenly felt lower for some reason. Koko was looking at me. Just me. Into my eyes. Me as Blickwinkle says, "Are you talking about me?" Feeling flustered, I gathered up my courage and spoke.
Yes, you. We finally meet.
Huh?
I don't know Hokutan, but I'm sure I know you because all this time you've been watching over me, haven't you? Fourth dimension-san. Blickwinkle-san. Let's play chicks again sometime. We go pew 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 pew.
Koko, I was the one. Koko's cheeks eased up a little.
I don't think you knew it, Take-pyeon, but I was playing with him too, not just you.
Huh?
Huh, isn't that right?
Koko was asking me. Uh-huh. It must have been. I might have been watching over Koko for all this time. I've been watching over you, and I wanted to get close to you too. But it was probably not possible.
Then, you were the one who told me that you liked me.
Yes, I suppose I was. Koko and I looked at each other. We were staring at each other, our eyes filled with passion. Ugh, I don't like that. I felt as though my existence would evaporate in any second.
What's going to happen to me?
All of a sudden, a dark shadow had covered Koko's eyes.
Am I going to die?
Don't be silly. There's no way that you're going to die. No matter what, I'll save your life, Koko. I won't let you die. Excitedly, I appealed to her. Although she looked like she was in some pain, Koko smiled at me happily. Her heart seemed that it would surely melt. So now Takeshi says, Koko, basically, we're going to save you no matter what. So just relax. I want you to rest now. As he's saying that, Takeshi went to close the pod.
Wait! What's going to happen?
You're going to sleep for a while, just like a cuddly bear.
No. Please, don't leave me. Don't go anywhere. Don't leave me alone.
We're not going to leave you alone, are we? We're going to stay right here.
You're lying. I don't believe you.
Quit being so stubborn. If we leave you like this, you're going to...
No, no, no. I don't want to. I don't want to be all by myself. I'll be too lonely. I'm scared. I'm so scared. Take-pyeon, will you lie down and sleep next to me?
There's no way. This pod is... Takeshi stopped in the middle of what he was saying. He looked up at the ceiling and to the monitor on the wall and finally into the pod next to Koko. Alright, how about this then? I'll sleep in the pod next to you. How's that? You won't be lonely anymore, right? Koko looked back and forth between Takeshi and me. She had a worried look on her face and stared at us with eyes that seemed about to burst into tears.
Really? You aren't lying?
Of course not.
You promise? You won't leave me and go?
Oh my god, this child, I swear to god. I wouldn't do that. Of course I won't go.
Alright then. I trust you, Take-pyeon.
That's a good girl. Takeshi petted Koko's head. I'm going to close it now, okay, Koko?
Uh-huh.
Takeshi turned on the switch. The lid of the pod slowly went down.
Hey, before I sleep, will you listen to my request?
Oh my god, go to sleep. Go to sleep, Koko. Request?
I wasn't talking to you, Takibyon.
Koko's eyes were pointed towards me. Me? As Blinkwinkle.
Yes. Well, I want to see you.
What?
I want to see you again. I want to see you and talk with you more.
Uh-huh.
I think that I might just... It's just that Oh, I can't say it. But will you promise me that you and I will see each other again someday?
Yes.
I'll be waiting. I'll wait for you no matter what. You'll come get me? Promise?
Yes, I promise. The space between the lid and the pod itself was almost gone. I could barely see Koko through the narrow slit. Koko faced towards me and whispered one last thing in her tiny voice.
Well, good night, Oni-chan.
Dun dun dun! Oni-chan! Before I could say anything in my reply, the lid had closed. The sound of compressing air filled the room. The low whir of the motor. With the light metallic ring, the pod shut completely. Takeshi pushed another switch attached to the pod's chassis, and the cryogenic suspension function was activated. There were small sounds as though gas was leaking out, and the pod slowly cooled down, humming with a slight vibration. Well then... Hey, something Winkle, you still there?
What is it, Dad?
Oh, it's you, Hokuto. You guys are confusing me. You and that Winkle guy are two different people, right? Or are you from the fourth dimension too, Hokuto? No, I'm just borrowing this perspective for now. Really? I mean, I still don't get it at all, but I don't suppose it matters. Saying that, Takeshi sank his body into an empty pod. The pod next to Koko's. And we get a special illustration of a very sweaty and wet Takeshi. What? Dad, what are you gonna do? What do you think? There's nothing else I can do, right? I made her a promise, you know. So you're going to... Yup, that's right. It doesn't look like there's a way to escape anyway. I'll just have to wait for the second rescue team to arrive. But it'll just be a waste of energy to wait here and do nothing, so I might as well get some sleep. Dad, wait a second! No, I'm tired. I'm really, really tired. I'm dead tired. Takeshi stretched his arm from where he laid and flicked the switch for the both closing the lid and starting the cryogenic suspension at the same time. The lid started to close, quietly, steadily. Alright, Hokuto, I'm counting on you. Dad! Oh hey, one more thing. Quit calling me Dad, will you? Well, I can't help it. I'm your son. No. That's not what I mean. If you call me Dad, why don't you say it a little bit more elegantly? Call me Father, okay? Father. You got it? Hokuto took a deep breath, trying to say something, but before he could say it, the lid of the pod had shut. A familiar hissing sound echoed in the room. The cryogenic suspension had activated. The pod cooled down with small vibrations. Just in case, Hokuto and I checked the monitor. The cryogenic suspension in the two pods was functioning properly. There were no signs of abnormalities in the bioscans of Koko and Takeshi. Anyway. The world in 2017. The laboratory at the bottom of the ocean. All that remained there was a perspective. Hokuto and I started to think. Oh yeah, we gotta let everyone know that Koko and Takeshi are here in the IBF. I wasn't sure whether it was I or Hokuto that thought that. Maybe it was just because we had switched places so often that the boundary between Hokuto and myself started to become very vague. Our consciousnesses had gotten muddied, tangled and intertwined, and we were close to the state of fusion. Or maybe we might have been that way ever since the beginning. My thoughts were the same as Hokuto's, and Hokuto's thoughts were the same as mine. Being me and being Hokuto weren't all that different. We had been one since long ago, and would continue to be one. That thought just went through my mind, but it wasn't the time to be engrossed in such thoughts. Our consciousness flew up the floating island. The miniature submarine was floating on the ocean surface, swaying in the waves and being teased along by time. It felt like a carefree trail in a deep blue ocean. I searched inside of it, but Tsugumi had already disappeared. She must have been somewhere on the floating island. I expanded my sight and looked down at the entire artificial island. I saw someone, but it wasn't Tsugumi. It was Yubisei Harukana. Hokuto and I flew down near her side. Walking along Yubisei Harukana was Pee-Pee. He was soaking wet. Okay. Which meant that it must have been right after you had picked up Pee-Pee from the ocean surface. She was walking down a trail attended by a few men who seemed to be staff members of Leimu. She was walking towards a helicopter. She was probably on her way to a large hospital or something. She looked surprisingly healthy, and she was walking steadily without support. Although she seemed in a dark mood, at least her health seemed fine. The antibodies must have worked just like with Takeshi. Anyway, I needed to tell her what had happened to Takeshi and Koko. And as the kid, I say, You! It was Hokuto who shouted at her. Haru says, Who is it? Caught off guard, she glanced all around. The staff members darted skeptical looks at her and then started talking to her when she started talking to herself all of a sudden. It's me! Who is this me? There was no way that she could have known Hokuto. Hokuto hadn't even been born into that world. And she wouldn't have believed us if we told her that we're talking to you from 17 years into the future. Hokuto told her, Look, there's something I want to tell you, so listen to me carefully. Actually, Hokuto told her that Koko and Takeshi had been left in the laboratory and that they were under cryogenic suspension in the pods. No way, it can't be. So you have to help them right away, okay? Are you serious? Totally. Koko and Takeshi weren't on the sub that rescued you, and the only others that were rescued were Tsugumi and Kaburaki. Woof woof! Pee-Pee looked at Hokuto and me and then gave a loud bark. Oh yeah, Pee-Pee. Pee-Pee had a disc in his mouth, didn't he? Uh-huh, you mean the terabyte disc, right? That's right, Sora's data and her memories are in it. What else? Hey, wait a second. Where on earth are you now? That doesn't really matter. You have to believe me. How am I supposed to do that? What is this? Am I hearing things? No, you're not. Seriously, Takeshi and Koko are... Woof woof! Pee-Pee started barking again. Oh, I know. Pee-Pee must have seen it. Pee-Pee saw Koko collapsed in the hallway. There's gotta be some image data that's saved in Pee-Pee's memory. Can you play it back? She dropped her head down, as if deep in thought, closed her eyes and massaged her temples with her fingertips. After seeming distressed in the manner for a while, she must have reached a conclusion. You looked up in a different direction and spoke. Alright. I have no idea who you are, but I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Yu. I'm counting on you. It's about time I got back to where I come from. Where did you come from? You wouldn't believe me, but it's 17 years in the future. Zoom. This is the silliest game on the planet. Hokuto and I went back to the world of 2034. Surprisingly, the future had been completely altered. Takeshi was there, Koko was there, Yubisei Harukana was there, and so was Yubisei Akikana. Tsugumi was there, Sarah was there, Sora was there, Kaburaki was there, and so was Hokuto. They were chatting happily in a circle. I didn't know what happened, but I was just relieved. The future had been altered. But how did it happen? I suppose Yubisei Harukana had kept her promise with Hokuto, so Koko and Takeshi were rescued immediately afterwards. And in that version of history, Takeshi hadn't died 17 years previously, but was still alive and well. So in that world, Tsugumi didn't have to send Hokuto and Sarah to the institution. In that version of the future, Hokuto and Sarah didn't have to be separated. Besides, I understood that the incident in 2034 was planned so that I, Blickwinkle, would come into existence. It was planned to have me descend into the world so that the past would be altered and Koko and Takeshi would be saved. But in that history, Koko and Takeshi had already been rescued safely 17 years prior. Therefore, there was no longer any way to grab my attention and make me appear in the world. Therefore, Yubisei Harukana didn't have to come up with an outrageous plan to trap everyone at Lemu, which meant that the incident starting on May 1st, 2034 hadn't taken place in that history. None of them had been trapped in Lemu, which meant that Yubisei Harukana had no reason to lie to Yubisei Akikana. Yubisei Harukana must have told Yubisei Akikana the truth in that history. As such, they were able to spend their lives peacefully from 2017 until now. They all lived safely with time just passing by peacefully and slowly. And that's what I was seeing right then. Hey, but wait a second. I needed to think about it a little bit more. In 2017, Takeshi and Koko were saved by Yubisei Harukana's actions. So if time passed by peacefully, it would eventually be the year 2034. There wouldn't be any accident. Blinkwinkle wouldn't appear. What would happen then? Hokuto in the world wouldn't talk to Takeshi in the past 2017, in the past that I knew. Hokuto had funneled his raw, untamed force and shouted into Takeshi's body lying on the bottom of the ocean. "Dad, Dad, don't you die on me!" But in the past retraced from that future, Takeshi had never heard his son scream. That meant Takeshi would have long since decomposed on the bottom of the ocean. And since Takeshi hadn't come back to life, Koko would have been left in the hallway and both of them would die. Because the incident in 2017 had already taken place as historical fact. Which meant that even the past connected directly to that world, the incident in 2017 wouldn't have been avoided. Therefore, the world could never be possible. It could never exist. It was a paradox. If that world could exist, a question would naturally arise. Who had saved Takeshi, who is alive here today? Was it Hokuto from a different future? Was it a Hokuto from a world that had been in an accident in 2034 that had saved Takeshi? No, that wasn't possible, because in order for an incident to take place in 2034, the condition that Takeshi could not be saved in 2017 had to be true, which meant, in order for Takeshi to come back to life at the bottom of the ocean, the events had to take place in 2034. In order for Koko to undergo cryogenic suspension, the events had to take place in 2034. Therefore, that peaceful world could never exist. Just as I reached that conclusion, Takeshi, who was cheerfully talking with everyone, suddenly started to decompose with a horrible sound. His skin became soggy and peeled off by itself. His exposed muscle fibers became dark and putrid and their surface flaking away. His cells started to dissolve and run like mud dripping to the ground. His abdomen burst open, spilling his internal organs. His hair fell out in chunks, exposing the white skull underneath. All that was left were white bones with pieces of red flesh stuck to them. Eventually, even his skeleton collapsed with a dry sound. At the same time, Koko disappeared noiselessly. Confused, Hokuto and I flew back to 2017. Yubisei Harukana was still standing in the same place. You! What, again? You just disappeared and now you're back again? Don't tell me it was like only a joke or something. I won't. It was real. I'm telling the truth. Takeshi and Koko are sleeping in the capsule pods right now. But you can't rescue them. What? Why is that? It's because... Now as Blinkwinkle, I'll say, enough, I just can't stand it any longer. I pushed away Hokuto's consciousness and jumped into the front. You have to wait for 17 years. I told her that before anything else. 17 years from now, I promise I will reappear before you. Huh? You puckered her lips and cocked her head to the side. Just listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. I roughly explained it to her. 17 years from now, I will reappear before you all. I just told you that, right? But in order for me to reappear, you need to trick me. So what I'm asking you to do is trick me 17 years from now. Trick me into falsely believing that it is the year 2017 again. And when that happens, I will still be the third eye, Blickwinkle, and that will cause me to reveal myself. And unless I reveal myself, neither Takeshi nor Koko will be saved. Because in order to restore life to Takeshi, who sank to the bottom of the ocean, I need to appear myself and go back to the year 2017. If I do not appear myself, Takeshi is going to rot at the bottom of the ocean. And if Takeshi fails to reach the laboratory, Koko will be left in the hallway. Both of them will die. Do you get it? No matter what happens, you need to stay away from the IBF until 17 years from now. If you save Takeshi and Koko now, the events in 2034 will fail to take place. And if that happens, I will not appear. And if I do not appear, I will be unable to save Takeshi and Koko in 2017. I will form a time paradox and Takeshi and Koko will disappear. I'll repeat it again, okay? In order for me to reappear in 2034, you must not rescue Takeshi and Koko now. I know this is painful, but this is the only way. And as for the way to trick me, well, how can I explain? You will need a bit of preparation. However, it will not be too difficult. You certainly have enough time. 17 years, actually. So it should not be impossible. I will tell you what to do. Are you ready? The day to act on the plan will be Monday, May 1st, 2034. First, Sarah will be visiting Leimu for a school event on that day. Sarah is Tsugumi's daughter, who will be born next January. She is actually a twin, and her twin brother's name is Hokuto, but due to an unavoidable circumstance, Tsugumi, Sarah, and Hokuto will be separated. So you will probably just tell Tsugumi you will be reunited with your son and daughter at Leimu. If you tell her that, Tsugumi will come to Leimu for sure. Next, you can invite Hokuto in the same way. If you tell him you will meet your mother and sister, he will also come alone. You must also have your daughter, Yubisei Akikana, work as a Leimu attendant just as you did. And if you coach her, you could lead her in that direction, right? You must not tell anything to Sora. It is best that you erase her memories of the incident in 2017. There is nothing to worry about because all the backup memories are saved in the terabyte disk. And finally, you will need the cooperation of young Kaburaki. 17 years from now, Kaburaki must look and act absolutely like Kurenari Takeshi, so he must begin training to look and act just like Takeshi. Do not worry, he will catch on in 17 years. These 6 people are required for the plan. All you have to do is simply throw them all together into Leimu on May 1st, 2034, and have an accident similar to the one in 2017. If you can arrange this, things will work out by themselves. The time in question will be 1 week from now, 1 week from the 1st to the 7th. And in these 7 days, you must not interfere with them. No matter what kind of crisis happens, understood? They will survive by themselves. And should I show no sign of reappearing by 9 p.m. or on the 6th, then I ask you to rescue them all. Is that clear? Will you do what I just told you? You must not forget. On May 1st, 2034, you are going to trick me. Understood? Oh wait, I mean, not me to be exact. It's actually Hokuto. I want you to trick Hokuto. You must trick him so that he will believe it is the year 2017. 17 years from now, without remembering why, I might ask you something like, "Why have you called me here?" And then I want you to answer this way: "I have only followed your directions." That is all. It was kind of lengthy, but do you understand? You got it, right? I need you to understand this. Yubisei Harukata was surprisingly accepting. As if overwhelmed by my enthusiasm, she kept nodding her head. I was still worried about whether she truly understood everything. Explaining to her again in more detail, I repeated those same words almost as if I were trying to hypnotize her. It took several more hours for her to precisely capture the whole picture. Hokuto and I made sure that she understood one last time, and then we left her. And now, in the world 2034 had returned to normal, Hokuto and I were still confronting Yubisei Harukana, But she kept her mouth closed as if she had spoken about everything. Yubisei Akikana stood next to her, also wordless, and in a cold silence I tried to reorganize my mind what had happened so far and started wondering, why am I here? And I found the answer easily. I have appeared because I was tricked by myself from the past. In other words, the mastermind behind the incident in 2034 was no one else other than myself. In 2017, I had told you to trick me. Therefore, I appeared in the world 2034 having been tricked by myself. Thanks to the strength of Hokuto's appeal, Takeshi and I had come back to life and saved Koko, helped her into the pod, and activated the cryogenic suspension. So that was what happened. That moment when Hokuto had shouted out, "Dad!" at the dark bottom of the ocean, everything had happened for the sake of that moment. It had taken 17 years and going back into time to bring the dead back to life. That was everything. Koko and Takeshi were still sleeping 119 meters under the ocean. So I needed to get there, and in order to save them. Before I realized it, I was already sprinting across the island. I ran on the grass and jumped into the deep brush. Dodging the branches slicing through the wind, I ran like a released arrow. As I pumped my legs, I thought, how can I get to the bottom of the ocean? I cut through the woods as I was thinking. I sprinted across the curving arch of the bridge and reached the docks, the harbor for the floating island. I looked around and I didn't see anything that resembled a mini-sub, and as I tried to catch my breath, I walked around the docks. I noticed there was broken pieces of rock in the middle of the open area. All of the pieces scattered around here were huge. They were as big as my whole body. The surface of the rocks had refined smoothness. Looking closely, I found that letters were carved on it. Where above sky. There were meaningless letters jumbled across the pieces of rock near me. There were letters on the other pieces. I put the pieces together and tried to guess the original sentence. Where is heaven? We have a special illustration of rocks. Okay. Above the sky and at your feet. It's a stone monument, I whispered. The monument must have fallen down for some reason and had broken into pieces. Was it due to the tremor from the accident, or had it been the passengers in a state of panic rushed towards the docks and knocked it over? I had no idea what the cause was. I picked up one of the smaller pieces. Oh, it's heavy. It's probably as heavy as Koko. And then a thought hit me. If I jumped into the ocean holding this piece of rock in my arms. Before I had time to think it over, my feet started to move. I ran towards the ocean. And the moment I reached at my maximum speed, I kicked up the ground with all of my strength. My body flew into the air. I jumped over the high fence. The blue water and surface swayed below my eyes. I splashed into the ocean holding a heavy piece of stone. The letters on the piece said heaven. Holding heaven tightly to my chest, I plummeted into the darkness. This is a fucking ridiculous thing. Don't do this, by the way. Don't do this. As I sunk deeper and deeper, I felt as if I were running fast with the wind against my face. The seawater pressed hard on my eardrums. Unable to pop my ears because I held heaven in my arms, I simply endured the pain. Water pressure, incredibly high, squeezed my body. I felt as if my joints were about to snap into pieces. My chest felt as though I would be crushed, going deeper and deeper and deeper. The deeper I went, the more water pressure rose. My lungs couldn't stand it. I decided to open my mouth. Blub. The air in my lungs came out. A large amount of water poured into them. I automatically gagged and started to choke, and then the cold seawater filled my windpipe. As my lungs filled up with water, I felt despair welling up inside of me. How far had I gone? I looked up and saw the water surface far above. I couldn't go back anymore. I looked below. I couldn't see anything. There was only the deep blue darkness. Deep blue black darkness, sorry. I couldn't see the bottom of the ocean yet. No matter how fast I sank, 119 meters was still very long. I went deeper and deeper, but the scenery was unchanged. The darkness, 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 a world covered in darkness. It occurred to me that I might I might just be swallowed by some deep ocean trench and keep falling forever. I began to feel desperate. The only positive thing that was that the pain had somehow disappeared. I felt as though my conscious mind would still be clear as the sense of pain had numbed. I realized that for the first time in my life. Actually, to begin with, my body had belonged not to me but to Hokuto. Thinking about that, I kind of felt guilty. I needed to return it in one piece. I couldn't see the bottom of the ocean yet. My brain started to run out of oxygen and I started to lose consciousness. My limbs were numb. The numbness soon turned into spasms, and against my will, my limbs started to go wild. I almost dropped heaven. I quickly pulled it to my chest and held it tighter, going deeper, deeper, and deeper. I must have looked like a priest at an exorcism gone wrong, possessed by an evil spirit, my whole body twitching wildly. Clunk. I hit a rock surface and stopped sinking. Splash! My momentum carried me flying out of the water. Putting my face above the pool, I started coughing hard, trying to expel all of the seawater in my lungs. I clung to the edge of the pool. Sucking in deep breaths of air, I coughed hard and was breathing in and vomited large amounts of water. I repeated that many times. I really understood the suffering that Takeshi had gone through. I crawled up weakly onto the floor. Whew! But there was no time to relax. I started running towards the examination room. It had been 17 years since I had last been there. I felt the heaviness of all the past years as I smelled the stale odor in that room. The paint on the capsule pod was partially peeled off and the surface of it was rough and weathered. Manipulating the computer terminal, I checked on the status of the pods. Both Koko and Takeshi were safe. Under cryogenic suspension, their body temperatures had been kept about 7 degrees Celsius, and their heart rates and breathing reduced only to a few times at a minute. They seemed to be in good health. The cryogenic suspension device seemed to have worked properly without a single glitch for 17 years. I deactivated the hibernation program for both of the pods. Finally, Koko and Takeshi were set to awaken at any time. First, I opened Koko's pod. There she is. Ice cold baby. Koko. 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 Koko.
Who is it?
It's me, Koko. I came to save you.
You came?
Yes, I kept my promise, didn't I?
The promise. The promise. The promise?
Koko rubbed her eyelids and blinked repeatedly.
Oh, I knew it! So you did come to save me!
Koko jumped up and hugged me, and now we have like this horribly super anime. God. Whew. Oh my god. I hate this. Anyway, Koko jumped up and hugged me. No, it was actually Hokuto who she had hugged. Was it me or was it Hokuto? Was it Hokuto that wasn't me, or was it me that wasn't Hokuto? I didn't fully understand, but still, I hugged Koko tightly too.
You know, I've been waiting for you for so long!
I know.
I've been waiting for you for so long!
I know.
I knew you would come and get me! I knew... I wanted to see you so bad! I had to see you again! My Oni-chan?
Yeah. But, Koko, I'm not actually your brother.
Oh, that's alright. A girl who doesn't have a brother could call someone who is like a brother Oni-chan.
Where is that written?
It's not written anywhere. I just decided it.
Koko stepped away from me. Koko and I stared at each other as we were drawn to each other.
Hey, it's strange. I thought I had so many things I wanted to talk to you about when I finally saw you, but I don't know why, but I get all tongue-tied. Oh, but one thing. Can I tell you something that I couldn't tell you before?
Sure. God. We did all this because she called us brother, but actually she's not related to us. Fucking Koko.
Well, I think you'll be surprised, but you might not believe me, but Oni-chan, I might have fallen in love with you.
What? My heart skipped a few beats. But I still,
For 17 years. For 17 years, I've been waiting for you, Oni-chan. I've known about you since 17 years ago, you see. You've been watching over me this whole time, but I've been watching you too.
It all started to make sense to me. Koko and I had been sharing the same time. I must have been sharing experiences with Koko through Takeshi's point of view. I'd always been by Koko's side.
Would it be so bad if I fell in love with you?
I don't think so, really.
Well then, it's decided. From now on, you and I are sweethearts, okay?
What? Before I got a chance to ask her back, Koko jumped into my arms again. Koko had regained all of her strength. Maybe the antibody had kicked in while she was under cryogenic suspension. Whatever it was, I was relieved. My heart was filled with waves of happiness. It had taken me a while, but it was finally Takeshi's turn. I gave the body back over to Hokuto since I wanted them to have a family moment. Here, have this body back. Wow, Takeshi doesn't look very good. He's very special illustration of him being like a frosty boy. Hokuto opened Takeshi's pod. Dad! Dad! Dad, wake up! Father! Oh, wow, he just thawed out instantly. Okay. Takeshi abruptly woke up. Where is this? He looked around, confused. Takeshi realized that Hokuto's face was in front of him and he said, Who on earth are you? It's me, Dad! Takeshi took a close look at Hokuto's face. He looked over at Hokuto's whole body. He closed his eyes tightly and started banging his forehead with his palm. He opened his eyes and glared at the examination room wall. Then Takeshi gasped, as if he suddenly realized something, and looked at Hokuto again. So you're that Hokuto? That's right, it's me, Dad! Dad, I've missed you so much! Dad! Raising his voice like a child, Hokuto rubbed his face against Takeshi's chest. Hey, wait a sec, Hokuto. Oh god. Let's see. Takeshi pushed back Hokuto. Let's see. Take it easy, will you, alright? Takeshi tapped Hokuto on the back. Huh? Takeshi raised himself and stretched his legs outside the pod. Koko rushed at him.
Takipyon!
Koko hastily jumped at Takeshi and hugged him. Hey, Koko, you look all better now.
Uh-huh. I don't have a single sore spot.
What? Oh, wow. Sorry, my Google really loves when I talk like Koko. Anyway. That's great. It looks like the plan worked out beautifully, didn't it? I'm glad. Dad! Hokuto jumped at Takeshi and hugged him just like Koko. Whoa, stop it now! Takeshi forcefully peeled him away. Why? Why don't you want me to hug you? Before I answer that question, there's something I want to ask you. What is it? How long have I been sleeping? A day? 2 days? Oh man, I didn't sleep for like a week, did I? Huh? Guessing from your reaction, it's been more than a week. A month? 3 months then, maybe. You gotta be kidding. You mean I've slept past summer and into autumn? Hokuto and Koko closed their eyes and shook their heads.
Today is Sunday, May 7th, the last day of the holiday.
Come on, you had me scared for a second there. It's only been a few hours since then. Hokuto and Koko looked at each other, nodded, and said, Dad, I don't want you to panic, alright?
Just calm down and listen.
Well, actually,
Takipyon,
you have been
sleeping for
17 years! After a while, Yubisei Harukana took a small submersible to pick us up at the IBF pool. Inside the mini-sub, she scolded Hokuto. You've got to be out of your mind to dive into the ocean like that. I mean, 119 meters. Don't you know, Hokuto? In this world, there's this wonderful safe vessel for going underwater called a submarine. Why didn't you just let me know? You're so stupid. Pure foolishness. You must have been the dumbest guy in history. I would agree. Must have come from your father's side of the family. Yeah. She kept picking on Hokuto until they reached the surface. Hokuto must have been thinking, it wasn't really me who decided to jump into the ocean. Awful. Being possessed by a Blickwinkle. The whole time Takeshi hadn't accepted the fact that he had been sleeping for 17 years. No matter how many times that they tried to explain, he just wouldn't listen. Therefore, Takeshi couldn't believe that Hokuto was truly his son. Under the bright sunlight, we get a special illustration of everybody together, including Pee-Pee, the mastermind behind it all. I like the idea that if you can see this small dog now, and you can think about him trying to pull like this dead body out of the ocean. Anyway, under the bright sunlight, Takeshi, Koko, Hokuto, and Pee-Pee were hanging around. Good morning! Those are such nice words. They make me feel like getting up and doing my best.
Yeah, I agree. Okay then, I'll say it too. Good morning, Takepyeon.
Good morning, Koko. Well, me too. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, son. Son? I don't have a son. And you have a daughter, too. Hey, don't start adding kids like that. So you're telling me that I'm the father of children? 2 children at my age? That's right. And it's true whether you like it or not. Right, Koko?
Right, Hokuton?
Ha 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 ha! Ha ha ha! Oh my god, I hate this. Listening to their cheerful laughter, I thought to myself, I should be going back to where I came from. As I began to fade, I heard only their happy voices behind me.
Hey, Takepyeon!
Huh?
I've got a new Oni-chan.
Oni-chan?
Uh-huh. He's actually my Oni-chan and my boyfriend at the same time.
Wow, we really just are saying this now. Really? Well, that's good for you. Woof woof! Hey, Dad! I told you not to call me Dad. Well, how about Father then? Don't call me that either. Why not? You told me to call you Father before. Well, that just slipped out of my mouth. Woof woof!
Hey, Takepyeon!
What's that?
Poop poop poo poop poop.
You're not making any sense. Hey, Dad! What is it now? Chew it. You too, huh? Woof woof woof! What's up, Pee-Pee? Oh woo! You just wanted to howl.
Takepyo!
Hey, stop changing my nickname. Koko-chan's... Oh my god, I hate this. Koko-chan's short comedy.
If Koko-chan were a monster, grr, I'm a monster, thump, I'm gonna destroy everything, grr.
Where's the punchline?
My grandfather's son, my grandmother's son.
That's so confusing. Hokuton's comedy sketch. If I became a 12th grader, since I've made it all the way to the 12th grade, I'll try my best not to forget to bring stuff to school. And since I'm always seem to forget my protractor, I'll do my best to remember it. That's a resolution, not comedy at all. Well, do your best. Don't forget it, you hear? Woof, woof, woof. What is it with you this time, Pee-Pee? Oh, woo! Let me guess, you just wanted to howl again, huh?
Takepyeon!
What is it now?
I want to play caterpillar!
Well, go ahead, no one's stopping you, right? Dad, Mom! What, am I both now? Look, if you can't think of anything to say, don't say anything. Woof, woof, woof! You're just going to howl again. Oh, woo! Oh, it's shorter now. Hey, that's kind of new.
Takepyeon!
What is it? Puku. There you go again. I decided to leave as I was hearing their happy voices.
Oh, wait a minute, Oni-chan!
What?
Can I see you again? I know I'll see you again no matter what. I believe in you, because after all, you and me are both from the sun, right? We can use our psychic power, okay? So believe in me too. Your world and my world are connected. Our 2 worlds are going to be united. And the intersection, there's a perspective. And I'll always be with you, Oni-chan. Okay, so I'll see you then, Oni-chan.
Here we go, ending. Yeehaw! Yeah. So this is how this game ends. Hey, look! Yubise Harakata and Yubise Agikata are played by the same voice actress. This game had such promise, and then dun dun dun. Ah, 1992, Leiblich Pharmaceutical undertakes development of Limit. Yoichi Tanaka, Yu's father, is employed as a technician at Limit. December 3rd, Tom Fablin is born! Sugumi Komachi is born. This is a great timeline. This is better to read, I can't read this fast. Yoichi goes missing in 2000. Kaburaki is born in 2001. Koko is born after. Tom saves his little sister from drowning in a lake. Tom meets Dr. Cabin in a hospital. Who's Tom? Sora goes into operation, functioning at a constant age of 24. Julia? Who are these people? Oh, we learn about Julia's blood. Alright. May 7th, play Moon. Oh, I'm so glad that we've had so many people working on the character art of this that I've insulted so many times during this playthrough. I'm sorry, everyone. Actually, the special illustrations were not so bad. Well, some of them were pretty bad, but it's fine. Oh yeah, Broken Coco. I remember that time. Hey, remember that time we had to listen to a fire alarm for 5 minutes because she wanted to water flowers? That was great. Remember when we made out with a hologram? Remember when Sugumi crushed that hamster to prove a point? I think this is the cover. Whoa. Nice Photoshop filter. Alright, 2018. We're learning about children. This is all about those kids. Them kids. Ooh, Blickwinkle appears. When we found this child in an elevator. Oh yeah, she ran into Himmel because she was a ghost. Himmel, which means heaven, which is why we grabbed a rock that said heaven so that we could jump into the ocean instead of taking a goddamn fucking submarine. Yay, we did it! Happy New Year! May 7th, 2034, Sunday. Time, 11:17 a.m. Kuronari Takeshi. I was in the middle of a blue world.
Hey, remember when he said that?
Headed back to the mainland. There was nobody on the boat other than us. Me, Hokoto, Tsugumi, Yubise Harukana, Sora, Koko, Kabaraki, Chami, and Pipi. Oh, and 2 girls named Tanaka, Yubise Akikana, and Matsunaga Sara. 9 people, and 2 animals altogether. I slipped a short distance away from everyone and learned that the deck railing to look out at the expanse of ocean before me. The May sun sparkled on the ocean. High above, stretched a clear blue sky. A fresh new sky looked so glossy and vivid that it might spill down to earth at any moment. That was all that reflected in my eyes. The straight line of the horizon stretched into the distance, dividing the sea from the heavens. So tranquil, I murmured to myself. A solitary seagull traced the gentle arc in the sky as the wind carried it away. The wind, carrying the ocean scent, blew by me gently. So peaceful, as if it was in a dream. Everything I saw in the scene before me was exactly as it had been 6 days earlier. 6 days earlier. For me, it had only been 6 days. Not even a week had passed. I had gotten separated from my friends that day, and ended up waiting by myself for an elevator. But after surviving for 6 days, I had been sucked 17 years into the future, and now we get to see special illustration of my children.
Hey, Dad!
I found out that I had a 16-year-old daughter and son. It was a dream. Yeah, that was right. I had to be dreaming. If I wasn't dreaming, there was no way it could be happening.
Hey, Dad, listen!
The girl called Sarah pulled her close to me. The girl was wearing a high school uniform I'd never seen before, but she suddenly grabbed me and pressed her cheek against my arm.
Hey, look at this! You know, I've been watching you ever since I was a little baby girl.
Sarah stuck out a pendant with a mirror attached to it, and on the mirror side there was nothing but... Oh, really? I don't really understand anything, but that's okay, daughter of mine. I can't believe how tall you've gotten. Saying that, I stroked her hair. Since I had come back that far, I decided there was no reason to hold back. Besides, all of it was a dream. And if I had such a cute daughter, what did it matter anyway? There's no reason to resist the whole situation, and as I was thinking that... Hey, Dad, no fair! You kept telling me don't call me Dad. How come you act so fatherly with Sarah?
Hey, Dad? I want to go to Ninja Town for some fun someday soon.
Ninja Town, huh? Why not? Sounds good to me. Hey, stop ignoring me! How come you always listen to everything that Sarah says?
Why don't you listen to a thing I say?
Well, Dad, why not? I'm not ignoring you. I just don't want to answer those kinds of questions. Those kinds of questions? Yeah, I don't answer meaningless questions. Oh, he's turning into Tsugumi. Komachi Tsugumi. I don't answer to meaningless questions. I could hear those words coming from a distance, the same words I used to say 17 years before me. In order to protect myself from the strong May sunshine, I stayed inside of the boat, where I could see the 3 of them through the window. Takeshi was on the deck over by the railing talking to the 2 kids. I don't answer meaningless questions. Yes, that was why I kept quiet whenever he asked me something. There was so much I wanted to talk about. I wanted to tell him about every single day that had passed those long 17 years. But for the time being, like that, watching him innocently playing with the children, that alone was enough for me. Everything that had happened up until that point was meaningless. He was there, right in front of me, and the 2 children were there. There was nothing more that I could have hoped for. I had found happiness, and was immersed in it, drowning in it, intoxicated by it. That was truly how I felt. It seemed to me that all of these days filled with that struggle and sadness had been for that day for a moment. Hokuto and Sarah were both sides of him, and they were trying to throw him off. They clung onto him. I absently petted Chami, who was riding on my shoulder as I watched the scene before me. Him, Kuronari Takeshi. So live! As long as you're alive, live! Don't worry, I'm not going to die! And after saying that, he jumped from our taxi, that stupid man. Stupid man. but he kept his promise, so there was something I had to tell him. Going outside, wrapped in my 100% UV protective clothing. That's right, her disease makes it so that she can't go into the sun. I walked over to where he was, and for some reason my legs were shaking and my heart was beating so hard I felt like it would burst. Being careful that he wouldn't notice the deep breaths I was taking, I went and stood in front of him. Takeshi, welcome home. Suddenly he pulled me close, into his strong arms and solid chest. My body was wrapped in a heat which threatened to melt me, and for one moment my heart stopped beating. Hey, I'm back, Tsugumi. Sorry for taking so long, he whispered. You know, you're as cute as ever. Stop it, No, you're too cute. What's with you all of a sudden? You're so cute I could just eat you up. Stop it! What are you talking about? You sure are charming. I suppose that's why they call you Chami. It's a good name. What? I forcefully pried myself away from Takeshi's chest. His eyes were leveled at my shoulder. I looked over to see what he was staring at. Chami was busy grooming himself with his jerky movements using both of his front paws. I can't believe it. You're such a jerk, Takeshi. Matsunaga Sarah. You're such a jerk, Takeshi. Mama let out a yell and spun around and then went back inside the boat, tail wagging. Does mommy have a tail? Okay, whatever. She moved unexpectedly and Chami, who had been riding on her shoulder, lost his balance and fell to the deck. Hey, Tsugumi, what's wrong? Dad went chasing after Mom. Bam, wham, bang, crash, crash. A series of frightful sounds ensued. I looked over at the other side of the window and could see Mama wildly brandishing the head of a costume that she'd been wearing. What? Oh, maybe. Oh, she was wearing the lemur outfit. I get it now. She had donned one of the lemur costumes in order to stay out of the sun. I could see Father's back as he was desperately trying to calm Mother down. Hokuto and I looked at each other and started laughing. And Chami? He was just acting as if nothing had happened and just continued cleaning himself. That's what hamsters do. They're very good at, ignoring the world around them. I leaned down to put Chami on my palm and stood back up. Mama had already told me about little hamster's ordeal, and when I had thought about how Chami had lived through the same circumstances that we had, it made my heart warm. I could feel the beating of his tiny heart in my palm. Thump thump. His heartbeat was tiny but consistent. It went without saying, but I thought to myself, Chami is living each moment to the fullest. Hey Oni-chan, what do you think is going to happen with us after this? What do you mean? With Lablik. You don't think Lablik will come after us, do you? We'll be alright, Sarah. Don't worry, okay? Someone was talking to us, and I looked around and I saw... I think this is, Harukana? Oh, hi, Nakyu. No, wait. Tanaka Yubi say Harukana, right? Dr. Tanaka nodded slightly. Hokuto asked Dr. Tanaka, what do you mean we'll be alright? What I mean is... Murmuring that, she took out the newspaper that had been tucked into her pocket and handed it to my brother. He opened it up. I nestled up against his shoulder and looked at the front page headline. Lablik Pharmaceuticals responsible for the outbreak of the Tiefblau virus? Compulsory investigation to begin in a day or two. It was learned that Tiefblau virus, which has ravaged the world since 2017, was manufactured by Frankfurt-based pharmaceuticals giant Lablik Pharmaceuticals. When a whistleblower from the Japanese-German Joint Managed Research Facility came forward earlier this week. Spurred by these allegations, the Metropolitan Police Department is expected to open a criminal investigation, and that is the focus on Lablik's branch offices as well as related research facilities. Lablik Pharmaceuticals has been conducting research and development of TB for some time with the purpose of manufacturing a biological weapon. An outbreak of the virus is rumored to have occurred in their research facility around May 1st, 2017. Lablik not only sought to cover up the accident, but continued to research into TB without authorization of the Ministry of Health under conditions of extreme secrecy, according to the whistleblower. The location of the company's research institute has not yet been confirmed, and numerous other doubts involving Lablix, including charges that wrongfully detained citizens for the purpose of human experiments, have been raised and are to be investigated. In order to fully uncover the facts behind these allegations, the reported incidents, the Metropolitan Police Department is requesting cooperation of the authorities in Germany, where Lablix head office is located. So now, oh my gosh, Yu says, Lablix has had a lot of influence, even political clout in the national level, so laying the groundwork for this was really tough, but Dr. Tanaka took out the old marker and scratched it against her cheek. So this whistleblower mentioned in this article is... That's right, it was me. Actually, I leaked it to the police quite a long time ago, but there was a lot of behind-the-scenes maneuvering, so I told them whatever happens, don't move before May 7th. You mean in order to rescue Dad, that girl Koko-chan? That's right. Well, that means they won't come after us, and we're free. Yep, so there's nothing to worry about, okay? Dr. Tanaka smiled kindly, and just then, Aki comes up. There's nothing to worry about. How can you say that? Do you have any clue what who you're talking to? Do you have any idea how hard a time Mayo has been through? Have you stopped to think about that, Mom? Come here, Mom, for a second. I have something to tell you. Now, we are Yubisei Harukana. Okay. Woohoo! I have something to tell you. Saying that, my daughter tugged firmly on my arm and led me over to a corner of the deck. What do you want to talk about? Well, you already know that, don't you? In 2025, you started working at Leimu to conduct research into the third eye. In order to save the real Kuronari Takeshi and that girl called Koko. So why? If you were working at Leimu, you could have found a way to rescue Mayu, who's been locked up at Lablix facility all this time. You could have reunited Tsugumi and her kids, right? So why didn't... Well, it had to be done to save Kuronari and Koko. We didn't dare change history, because I had made a promise to Blickwinkle in 2017. So you're not going to tell me anything, are you? It's always like this. You always decide everything. And if you couldn't trust me enough to explain things before all of this happened, you didn't have to lie to me. You lied to me these 18 years. Yes, I had. And there was really nothing I could do to apologize. So I don't want you to lie to me or hide anything. I want to know everything. Are there still things you haven't told me yet? Like who my real dad and mom are? Please, tell me, please. I didn't hesitate. I told her about her father, Yuichi, and mother, Yukie. I told her the truth, all of it. May 6, 2017. Because Koko was sick, we all headed to the... Oh my god, are we really gonna read? We don't have to recap this, we got this! While Kuronari and the young Kaburaki and Tsugumi were searching around the research facility, I stayed behind in the examination room. Koko and the researcher were lying in the capsule pods. The researcher was fighting to stay conscious as the virus consumed his body, told me, I never dreamed that we would meet again in a place like this. That was right. He was my father, T.Y., Tanaka Yuichi. As he laid there in agony, he explained to me what had happened. In the year 2000, my father was a researcher on Lamid development project, and one day by accident he discovered that Lablix was developing the TB virus. TB was a potent virus with exceedingly high mortality rate, and Lablix was planning to sell it to military buyers around the world. Father, whose sense of justice was stronger than anyone I'd ever known, appealed to the company to stop development of the virus immediately, but of course they refused. That being the case, my father made up his mind. He hacked into the he did it. However, Lablix found out that before he could make his move, had put him in a situation that he could not escape from. They threatened my father, telling him, should you escape from here, your wife and child will probably die in an unfortunate car accident. Oh my god. Okay. And to my mother Yukie, Lablix said, your husband is missing after a tragic accident. Making his rounds to the Leimu premises, he slipped and fell into the ocean. We are doing everything we can to search the surrounding waters, but his remains still have not been located. And my mother believed them. It was the very first summer of my life. Time passed and it was the year 2017. My father, who had been manipulating the computer system for IBF, was caught up in the TB outbreak. As all of the researchers fled one by one, my father stayed in IBF because he was worried about me. My father knew I was working at Lemu, and my father, right in front of me, and during the disaster, after another and gasping in pain while clawing at his throat, he struggled until the end to say, "My daughter. Daughter, take care of her." His last words. Because of that accident, the Tiefblau virus broke out, causing terrible suffering all around the world. And we did nothing about it because Blickwinkle told us. But Leiblich Pharmaceuticals concealed everything, and the truth about the virus and the research facility was locked away. Oh my god. I hope we don't have to do this for everybody. I just thought that I could wrap this up, but boy, this is like the longest ending ever, and I completely forgot about this. The press only reported that it was a deadly virus of unknown origin. Even the experts had no idea where the disease really came from. However, the incubation period was very short, and even though death rate was high, in many cases the carrier died before infecting others. So while TB virus spread rapidly for a time in 2019, 2 years after the accident, the pace and scale of the disease's destruction gradually waned. That didn't mean that there weren't victims. A number of people that the virus killed was said to have reached several tens of thousands, and one of them was my mother, Yukie. It was 15 years ago that my mother caught TB and was robbed of her life. My sadness, anger, and hatred all came together then, and I swore that I would get revenge on Leiblich. I infiltrated Lemu and simultaneously started formulating a plan to rescue Kurinari and Koko, who were trapped in the research facility. And the person who helped me do that was Kaburaki Ryogo. We had spent every moment for the last 17 years preparing for it. Yes, it was only the one point I had lived for up until that point. To make Leiblich pay for taking my mother and father from me and to save my friends Kurinari and Koko. In order to do that, I needed to discover the third eye, Blickwinkle. And without his help, there was nothing we could do. There was no other way that we, who are living in our dimension, could go back in time. That was how the whole plan had been set in motion, all towards May 1st, 2034. After finishing my explanation, I let out a big sigh. Tell me about it. Biting on the nail of her thumb, my daughter looked up at the sky. See? Look at that face. I knew you wouldn't believe me. She looked at me. Then again, who would believe a story like that? But it doesn't change the fact that it is the truth. I reached out to stroke her hair, and she stared at me blankly, looking just like I did 17 years before, reckless, full of fire, pure, all to the point of being dangerous and unable to control her emotions. Her innocent eyes had seen none of the evil and corruption in the world. I didn't realize this until now, but Yu's arm is horrifically thin in a way that, like, I just noticed it and I'm very concerned. I never realized that it was that thin until now. Anyway, her innocent eyes had seen none of the evil and corruption in the world. Looking at her eyes, I really could read everything that she was thinking. She wasn't mad. She wasn't unhappy. Just afraid to accept the truth. She didn't know how to handle it and was scared and embarrassed by that fact. So I reached out to her and held her closely. There's no need for you to say anything, I thought. Mom, I understand that what you're trying to tell me. She whispered that quietly in my ear. But there's something I have to know. What? What do I mean to you? I laughed without thinking and replied, "You are everything to me." Oh my god, do we really have to read more? I will do this until I've done this for 2 hours and then I will stop. I cannot keep going. I cannot believe. Okay. Now we are Tanaka Yubise Akikana, who is the younger one. You are everything to me. Mom said those words to me. I wanted her to tell me you are my daughter, but for some reason it didn't bother me. Shouldn't you be furious? And you should slap her across the face. Another voice inside my head murmured that. Although I couldn't get angry, I relaxed against my mother, who held me tightly. I could only feel dizzy from her warmth. All of the normal reactions, such as lashing out like a wild animal and my sudden mood swings, the warmth of her hug, took all of that away. Mom. When it came down to it, I still thought of her as my mother. There was an instinctive itch that transcended my basic reason, and it was beyond my ability to control. In the end, no matter what anyone said, the woman in front of me was my mother. She wasn't much of a mother to me, but to me she was the only mother that I had, and that was all there was to it. At that moment, it occurred to me, I only differed from people in the way that I was born. I had been told since I was a little girl that there were lots of things in the world that were hard to believe. In junior high and high school, all of my friends loved to talk about all the kinds of strange things. Psychic phenomena, supernatural powers, UFOs, UMAs, super ancient civilizations, urban myths, curses, fortune-telling, miracles, mysteries. I thought I had dismissed all of those things as girlish fantasies. Those are girlish fantasies, alright? But something had changed slightly, because my existence itself was something hard to explain. If I thought about the fact that I myself, the girl called you, was somewhat of a mystic entity, then ectoplasm, cattle mutilations, Rip Van Winkle, and the Lemurian civilizations, all of those things seemed like normal everyday things. Even the third eye. While those thoughts drifted through my head, my mother quietly went inside of the boat and left myself in the corner of the deck. I basked in the lingering warmth that remained on my skin. The boat slowly rocked back and forth as it cut through the waves. The smell of the ocean quietly wafted by, carried by the sea breeze. And soon... Oh, Hokuto's here. Oh, hey you. You've been here all along? I've been looking for you. The kid, Hokuto, came walking over to me. Actually, there was something that I wanted to ask you. Ask me? Hokuto nodded deeply and said, I've been thinking I want to study archaeology when I go to college. Now we are Hokuto. I've been thinking I want to study archaeology when I go to college. I told you what had been on my mind. Huh? Why that again? Well, because I want to study more about the third eye. You was silent. Huh? What are you, stupid? There's no such thing as the third eye. I thought that for sure she would come back with something like that, so I was caught off guard by her reply. And? What did you want to ask me about? Well, I've already made up my mind that I'm going to study archaeology, but I still don't really know much about it. Like what kind of things I should do to prepare, or if there's any books, that are good primers on the subject. I was hoping that you can give me some advice. Well, I don't know what kind of advice that I can give. I've only started college and I've only really taken my recs, so... Recs? Required classes. In order to major in archaeology, you've got to be a junior. Oh. I'm sorry, but I really can't tell you anything. Oh, but maybe there is one thing. You should probably study something else. Huh? Why? Archaeology is way more boring than you're probably thinking. It's a lot different than what they show in the movies. Besides, if you want to study the third eye, you're better off attacking it from the direction of philosophy or psychology. In the first place, archaeology is just a subject that studies human history. But it's okay, I've already made up my mind. I've been thinking about how I could approach the study of the third eye from the angle of the human history. There you go again. Be difficult as always. I think the reason you want to study it is so that you can be in the same field as me. I mean, it's obvious that you like me. Yeah, you're probably right. I told her point blank how I felt, and it seemed like my reply had caught her off guard. Part of me feels like choosing to study archaeology was already half decided by destiny, so I don't have a choice. By destiny? Yeah. In another space-time continuum, I'm destined to walk that path in the future. Huh? I don't know how you'll understand it no matter how much I explain it anyway, but I know what I saw. In that future, you and I were going out and... What? I'm pretty sure that this time you and I are destined to be together as well. Hey, wait a second, kid. You're getting ahead of yourself here. I don't know... I don't know much about fate, but things like this are decided with both people's consent. And after that happens, you start going out. Yeah, okay. I'll say it right now. Now? Yeah. Yubisei Akikana-san, would you go out with me? Because I'm crazy about you. Okay. What a pickup line. We were destined to be together. Alright, now we are Kaburaki Ryogo, aka Fake Takeshi. Who's left? Is it just Sora and... Is that it? Is it just Sora after this? Okay. Because I loved her. It was 2017. I was still 15. I was stuck in Leimu in a total state of confusion with no memory, and I even forgotten my name, Kaburaki Ryogo. I was 15 years old. All I wanted at that time was stability. Young as I was overcome with amnesia and even doubts as to whether my existence would fade away. And amidst that chaos, it was an innocent smile that helped thaw my frozen heart. I fell for her right away. All I had to do was see her smile. That was all it took for my fears to disappear, blown away like leaves falling off in an autumn tree. Although I was still uncertain about who I was, her uniqueness helped me turn my eyes away from the turmoil inside of me and the world around me. Perhaps it was because of my uncertainty. I suppose that I might have been grasping for my identity through the love that I had felt for her. I was an empty shell at that time. Flowing into that void, her simple, pure smile, innocent mannerisms, and genuine sincerity, and from that point on, for 6 days, she was in my thoughts constantly. I found myself looking at her all the time. I didn't have the courage to tell her, but it was enough for me to just see her. That's how fond of her I was. I loved her. Yagami Koko. There you go. Dropped again. Another fun little factoid. And then May 6th, the fateful day arrived. I had come down with TB, and then the rescue team found me, and I had lost consciousness. And by that time, I had found that Koko had been left behind in the research facility. A few days had already passed. When Yubisei Harukana told me what had happened, I was shocked. At the same time, I thought, I've got to go save her, and I ran outside without waiting for you to finish the rest of her story. You caught up with me and started telling me the things about the third eye, the fourth dimension, the past and the future, but none of it made sense. 17 years from now, you'll have to go back to Leimu. You'll return as Kurenari Takeshi. And unless we can trick Blickwinkle to wake him up and bring him into our world, he'll never save Koko. We'll never save Koko and Kurenari. So please, help me. That's what you had asked of me. It took a few more months for me to become fully convinced. All I wanted to do was save Koko. If she'd be alright, I didn't mind the danger. Even if I was despised, blamed, criticized, even ridiculed, none of that mattered to me. I just wanted to see Koko smile again. Still, there was Takeshi to consider as well. I respected him greatly. He was brave enough to sacrifice his life to save the woman that he loved, and for a 15-year-old like me, Takeshi was a role model. I swore that I would save Koko and Takeshi no matter what it took. 17 years later, for 17 years, you and I had spent every minute, every second putting our plan into motion. Yes, I had lived for that day. Just 6 days, Koko and I had spent 6 days together. I think about those, but in those 17 years, not a moment went by that I didn't think about her, because I loved her. That was the only reason that I had been able to fool everyone.
Hey, kiddo, kiddo, kiddo!
My heart leapt. She was calling to me. I couldn't turn around. I stood there, frozen, even forgetting to breathe.
Hey, what are you doing all by yourself?
Koko rapped me on the head and peeked around at my face.
Come on, and join everyone. It's no fun by yourself, right?
Huh?
You're not worried about something, are you? Are you feeling bad that you lied to everyone? You don't have to worry about that. Besides, if you hadn't been able to trick Blickwinkle-san, Takipion and I wouldn't be here right now. We owe you our lives, right? You don't have to explain a thing.
We're all grateful to you. Nobody here blames you. You really think so?
Of course I do. Okay, so come on. Everybody's waiting to hear your voice, kiddo. Waiting and waiting and waiting. And after that, we're going to celebrate.
Koko was laughing. The smile that I had waited 17 years to see was shining right in front of me. Yay, we get to be Sora now. Akanagasaki Sora. The smile that I had waited 17 years to see was smiling right in front of me, and she's looking at Takeshi, who is clearly not smiling. It made me dizzy to look at it. An electronic rhythm pulsed through my body, the excessive voltage throwing my logic circuits out of order. It was a pain that I had experienced before. Hey, Sora? Hey, Sora. Are you listening to me?
Huh? What were you talking about again?
This here, pee-pee. This here, pee-pee. We're gonna do it right here on the deck. Pay attention. Anyway. Okay. He stopped moving all of a sudden, and I just thought that you might be able to take a look at him. Kurenari-san lifted pee-pee and stuck him out in front of me. All of a sudden, you say? Any reason you can think of? Maybe. Maybe Tsugumi. She started thrashing around in the cabin, and I tried to pin her down, but she threw me off. And then I went down. This little guy happened to be there.
I landed right on top of him, so maybe that's what could have caused it.
Yep, after that, he stopped moving.
Let me take a look.
I took pee-pee from Kurenari-san and started a diagnostic on him.
That's strange. I don't see anything wrong with him. Maybe his battery ran out?
What a relief. They thought I'd broken him. Koko, you and her daughter would have been furious at me.
Well, I would have been angry too.
Upset that he hadn't included me, I continued.
I'm fond of pee-pee too, you know. I don't even think fond describes it. You might say pee-pee and I are connected on a deeper level. 17 years ago. If pee-pee hadn't picked up my terabyte disk, I wouldn't be here right now. After pee-pee got to the surface, Tanaka-san, UBC Harakana-san that is, took the data off the disk and copied it to the body that you see now. That is the reason I am able to maintain the records of what happened to all of you 17 years ago. And after that, Tanaka-san took pee-pee in, and from that time on has been a member of the Tanaka family. So in other words, pee-pee has an irreplaceable part of all of our lives. I thought I'd already told you this.
Yeah, that's right, now that you mention it. But come on, you don't have to get so serious about it. Besides, pee-pee isn't broken, so what's the big deal? Kurenari-san laughed pleasantly.
I can't fight it. His smile always disarmed me. It was bright as the sun and powerfully magnetic. He could charm me effortlessly. It isn't fair. That smile should be outlawed, Kurenari-san.
By the way, Sora, can I ask you something?
What is it?
I looked away, tried desperately to regain control of my wildly racing mind so that he could not see through my true feelings. I hope that you don't think it's rude of me to ask this, but, it's about your body?
My body?
Yeah. As far as I can tell, you look totally human. Your skin, the way you move, your appearance, everything. It's so natural.
That isn't rude at all. Actually, it's a compliment, isn't it? Thank you. And was that your question?
No, I mean, I was wondering how your body is put together, that's all.
Is that strange to you?
Yeah, a bit. At the same time, I'm happy. I mean, I can actually touch you now. And he said that Kurenari-san put a hand to my cheek. It burned. A lump, hot and boiling, ran down from my stomach to my brain. Okay. My generator was burning too much energy, frying my processor, and my logic circuits shut down.
Kurenari-san!
Holding pee-pee firmly to my chest. And grabbed onto Kurenari-san's palm with my free hand. Oh! We're actually touching each other. We can touch each other, really touch each other. I really waited those 17 years just for that moment. What's wrong, Sora? Have you been drinking or something? Your face is all red.
Professor Kurenari!
What is it, Akanagasaki-kun?
There's so many strange things in this world, don't you think? You asked about my body, didn't you, Professor? I wondered how I came to have this body, didn't you?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I gotta organize my thoughts now. Yeah.
There is only one answer. It was a miracle.
Miracle?
Yes, a miracle from the goddess Aphrodite.
Kuronari-san looked straight into my eyes and blinked. He winkled. Anyway, he opened his eyes wide with a start and said, Pygmalion. I slowly, quietly nodded, and just then,
Hello!
in came the girl with the boundless energy, Koko-chan. I quickly let go of Kuronari-san's hand.
Hey, have any of you seen Pee-Pee? Oh, wait a second, you're holding him, Sora-san. Yes, but it looks like Pee-Pee ran out of batteries.
Saying that, I handed Pee-Pee over to Koko-chan.
Out of batteries? That can't be. I just finished charging him a minute ago.
Koko-chan held Pee-Pee between both of her hands and started shaking him left to right. I need to leave. This is a lot. Oh my god, we're at 2 hours, but we're so close! I can do this, I can finish this game. He wasn't rechargeable kinetically, so that shouldn't have done anything for him, but...
Ah!
I exclaimed without thinking as I realized something. Koko-chan and Kuronari-san both turned to stare at me.
I figured it out! The reason, I mean.
The reason?
His switch! I think I just need to turn on his switch.
Koko-chan lifted Pee-Pee above her. There was a button in his navel.
Are you ready? Here I go!
I stuck out my finger and zeroed on his belly button, and click! I firmly pushed the button. His motor started to run and I could hear the faint sound of something oscillating. Pee-Pee's eyes came to life.
Woof, woof, woof! Sora-san, thank you! Don't mention it. All I did was push a button.
And just then, Kuronari broke out into laughter. Hey Sora, you remembered.
Yes.
I smiled from the bottom of my heart and nodded. The world is full of strange and wonderful things, wasn't it? The discussion about Pygmalion and saying click. Neither of those should have been on my terabyte disk.
Woof, 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 woof.
Pee-Pee left from Koko-chan's arms.
Woof, woof, woof.
Wagging his tail fitfully, he raced across the deck.
Hey, wait, Pee-Pee!
Making a racket, Koko-chan chased after him. The deck was covered in gentle sunlight, overflowing with cheerful laughter. Looking up, there was a sky. The blue sky that continued without end, stretching out in all directions.
Okay. Woof, woof, woof! Pee-Pee! Hey, you, wait a second, you little...
And now we are... Koko, you got me. Okay. I think this is the last one. Please be the last one. I can't imagine it not being the last one.
Woof, woof, woof! Pee-Pee! Hey, you, wait a second, you little...
I was chasing after Pee-Pee. I don't know why, but that's what I was doing. I was probably just something fun to do. Pee-Pee ran across the surface of the deck like he was flying. Suddenly, Pee-Pee stopped.
Woof, 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 woof!
Just when I thought he wasn't running anymore, he looked up at the sky and started barking at something.
Huh? Is there a bird or something?
I lifted him up. Still, he wouldn't stop barking, so I followed his gaze and looked up into the sky. And there was...
Oh, it's you, Oni-chan!
Right in front of my eyes, I saw the floating outline of my Oni-chan, who I loved dearly. Well, that isn't something I saw. Rather, I'm seeing it right now. Right now, at this moment, Koko-chan is looking at you. I cried out suddenly with an elated expression.
Hey everyone, come over here! Come here, quickly, quickly!
Oh, look, it's Tsugumi in the lemur outfit holding Hokuto's hand. The first of the people to arrive were Hokuton and Tsugumi. What's wrong? Did something happen?
Look!
There, see over there? I point at you. I want to tell everyone that you've arrived. Tsugumi takes off her hat and squints her eyes against the sunlight. Hokuton is... Hey, it's true, you've come back! A smile covers his whole face as he jumps around and he's going to start dancing. Next, Takepyeon shows up. Oh, there he is with Chami and Sarah. Huh? What's going on? Mayo jumps up. Aye! Up on Takepyeon's back, and soon everyone shows up one by one. There's Yubisei Akikana, Sora-san, and Nakyu's daughter. What's going on, Tanaka-san?
Just hurry up.
And Nakyu and Kiddo. It's him! Yeah! There's all of them! There's everybody on the boat. The boat is suddenly crowded with excitement.
Hey, Oni-chan! Oni-chan!
I wave my arms wildly, hoping, praying. Please let my thoughts reach my Oni-chan, and please let me meet with him again someday. Now, I, Koko, am looking at my Oni-chan. Now, I am looking at the world where Koko exists. Looking down on it with both of my eyes, I am sure of it. If the moon is only there because you believe that it will be there when you look for it, then is it possible that I am here and they are here only because I believe that we are? Right now, the world exists here. I am looking at the world. I am looking at myself, looking at the world. How far do I go? I don't know the answer, but there are some things that I am sure of. Right now, I am seeing. Right now, I am being seen. And right now, you are seeing. And right now you are surely being seen by someone. The end. Woohoo! That's the end! We did it! Wow! We did the game! We can stop playing the game. Oh my god. Thank you for staying for 2 hours on this stream that I thought was going to be done in an hour. Oh my god, this game is always just like a little extra for fun. I am glad that we got all of that ending with Sora. I think Sora is my favorite character because it's just dumb. The whole thing is dumb. What a game. Anyway, thanks for joining, and that's it. There won't be any more. Goodbye!